Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be sharing with you here today. I'm Adriana Murray, and I do have a background in quantum physics. So these equations are going to be important for things I'd like to share with you later. So please pay particular attention to equation 1.7. There's going to be an exam at the... I'm kidding. I do have a background in quantum physics, but today I would like to speak to a bit of a different topic, a passion of mine that I have been involved with since I was a young girl. Now, this is my high school science project from the 1990s in South Africa, where I am from. So no fancy robotics or machine learning or IoT systems. This is a paper mache model of a city on Mars. And as my mom has pointed out, the topics that I will be discussing with you here today have not changed much. So let's proceed. Thinking about the extreme environments on Earth is a really important step towards understanding what is necessary for human communities wherever in the solar system they may be. And while during the pandemic, many industries have been brought to their knees, the space industry has not been one of those, and we have seen massive and exciting developments with 3 missions arriving on Mars this year, and plans to return to the moon are underway, perhaps as early as 2024. So with these extreme environments beyond Earth in mind, what can we do while we are on Earth to start to collect data, to understand both the technological aspects, but also, critically, the community aspects for what will be required of us, not only to explore beyond Earth, which will be the most exciting adventure in the history of humanity, and I believe we will be around to participate in this era. But importantly also, there are parallels between the kinds of mindsets and the kinds of technologies that we need to explore beyond Earth with the kinds of developments that we have to see happening on Earth. Now, I established an organization called Proudly Human in 2019, and a video says it better than I could, so let's play the application video, which I'm really happy that we launched in February this year. Let's watch the video. I want to go to Mars because, to me, the allure of the unknown has always felt far more powerful than the comfort of the known. Thank you for your attention. Proudly Human's Off-World project is a series of habitation experiments in the most extreme environments on the planet to prepare for life on the Moon, Mars and beyond, and to improve standards of living on Earth. During each experiment of several months, a carefully selected team will arrive in an isolated location, build infrastructure from scratch, run projects, and live as a community while participating in making a documentary series. Do you have the right stuff? We are looking for resilient people with diverse expertise, a passion for adventure, and a story to tell. Apply now to join our off-world community. When we allow ourselves to dream, when we believe in our dreams, and more importantly, when we take active steps towards achieving those dreams, that it becomes possible to create a proudly human future, whatever planet we're on. Thank you very much. So this was the application video, and I encourage you for the next few minutes of my talk to think about what your project proposal might look like. So let's talk in a bit more detail about what are the necessary technologies to live in extreme environments, and perhaps you're not a scientist, perhaps you're not into technology. What contribution does each human, each community member have the possibility to contribute to such a community? So let's think about living in extreme environments. In fact, let's think about living anywhere. There are 4 categories of resources that are essential wherever humans are living. These are power, water, food, and communication systems. And I think during these last uncertain 2 years, we have learned just how important these 4 things are to be a functional member of this increasingly technological-driven society that we are a part of. So I haven't mentioned shelter, because in fact all of these resources would be included under the roof that would provide protection from an unbreathable atmosphere on Mars, but is also, of course, a requirement for living on Earth. Now, today I'm not going to go into so much detail on the solar-powered technologies, the production of biofuel from organic waste, the wind turbines to supplement this power, The water systems, whether we're extracting water from the atmosphere in the deserts or from the sand on the surface of Mars, how we are managing this wastewater in an extremely efficient way with respect to power usage so that this water can be used back into agricultural systems, which are indoor precision setups so that we can produce the most nutritious food with the least amount of resources in the shortest amount of time, all the way through to the communication systems, which could include heart rate monitors, IoT devices, and satellite communications to share this data. I'm not going to go into any more detail on those systems because I think we realize that these technologies exist. And the next step is to understand how we can manage such resource systems. And blockchain could provide a really exciting way to have a ledger, a record, a distributed recording of how resources are utilized and transferred back into resources. Because when we are in extreme environments, the word waste should have very little meaning. So in this time of uncertainty, I think it's been great to reflect and to be grateful. And thinking on these categories of resources, living on the planet Earth, we should be grateful that our existence on this planet is made possible by the availability naturally of these resources. But as we go forward, we will need to develop cultures, mechanisms, resource management systems that enable us to use these resources more efficiently. Because we are blessed to have power from the sun, which enables the liquid water on the surface of our planet, which is the source and the resource for all known living systems. Our planet is unique in terms of hosting liquid water on its surface in the solar system. We can see life from space, the photosynthetic belts that cross the center of our planet, as well as the algae in the ocean, is visible from space. Our planet is unique in terms of life being visible from the satellite data that we collect from space. And these photosynthetic systems are also the ultimate food source for the whole food chain on planet Earth. We might think as humans that we were first to create communication systems, databases, ways to distribute and store communication and information. However, nature got there first. And this molecule that we are beginning to understand more and more about shows us the unity of life on Earth, that all living systems containing this DNA molecule are in fact one big terrestrial Earth life family. And this is the information carrier that transfers information from one generation to another, enabling us to continue life on this planet. So these are the naturally occurring resources that are fundamental for life on Earth, but how well are we managing these resource systems? Our increasingly growing population of humans, our culture of consumerism is having an impact on the planet on a global scale. The pandemic, extreme weather events as a result of climate change are predicted outcomes of our expansive industry impacting our life support system. How good are we at managing resources? This is a critical question, whether we are thinking about our future on Earth or, very excitingly, our expansion to even more extreme environments beyond Earth. So thinking about these things is what I've been doing for most of my life, but doing these things is what's coming next. And whether you are thinking about contributing perhaps scientifically or technologically to a community in an extreme environment, whether that's in the community where you live or perhaps you might think of applying to the Off-World project, we need to put these thoughts into action. So we will kick off the Off-World project next year in a desert environment where managing water is the central, crucial aspect of the project. And we've chosen Namibia, being a next-door neighbor country to South Africa, where I've been able to travel to do location scouts. And this is the kind of technological setup that we will consider: the shelter, the power, the water, the food, and the communication systems that will enable us not only to live in the extremity of the desert, but to manage our water successfully, to be a functional and thriving research community with communication systems and computing capability. We will arrive in a region with no infrastructure, bringing these technologies in vehicles and set up camp from scratch. That will be part one. Next, we go under the ocean, and next we go to Antarctica for the winter. But that's another story for another day. So whether you are thinking of applying, whether you'd like to spend the winter in Antarctica or perhaps leave the planet on an adventure one day, or whether you are very happy to watch this from home, because we are making a documentary series. So for those of you with your feet firmly on the ground, we'd like to be able to share the learnings from these communities with the planet and perhaps people and others. But I'd like to remind you, in case you are not so adventurous to want to leave the planet, that we are already in space. We are traveling around the sun at a startling rate, receiving our energy from our star and accessing our resources that are, in fact, produced in space by supernova events and other phenomenon. In space, we're in space, right? And this is a beautiful quote by Marshall McLuhan, indicating that whether we are volunteering to go on some adventures or whether we are working hard to improve the state of affairs in our communities, in our countries, on our planets, in fact, we all have a responsibility, we all have a role to play. This is a fascinating era that we're living in, but also a time for reflection. And I believe we need to look into ourselves and assess what does it mean to be human. And for me, this is to be curious, this is to be creative, this is to be compassionate. And if we all embrace our humanity and learn from history, but also have dreams and have visions for the future, then we can all collaborate together to create a future that we can be proud of, whatever planet we're on. Thank you very much.